Happy Saturday morning, everyone. Rob here, hopping on real fast just to say I'm sorry for the audio quality in this particular episode. I don't know if I need a new microphone or just maybe reboot the computer. Who knows? But it's definitely a little distorted. I will definitely take care of that issue as best I can. And if it does require a new microphone, it might be this for a couple of episodes, but we'll get the job done. Have a great one, and hope you enjoyed today's reading. Today is January 10th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It is a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today at the Big Book, we are going to read Bill's story, bottom of page 1 and half of page 2. At the 12 and 12, we are on step 1. We'll be reading the bottom of 22. And of course, we'll read the 24 hours a day and daily reflection. So with that, hope you all are doing well this morning, my friends. We've been given another set of 24 hours. We're in full swing of the hockey season. And I even talked to a friend yesterday and might even start playing again for the first time in a long time. Get into shape and play in a beer league without drinking the beer. So anyway, that's giving me a big old smile this morning, and just the fact that I'm sober today. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the good stuff. All right, my friends, so if you remember from yesterday's reading in chapter 1, we were introduced to Bill, of course, and his story. And right now, hey, things are good. He's serving in the war, but overall, he's got moments sublime with intervals hilarious. Although when he is at Winchester Cathedral, he does happen to notice a doggerel on a tombstone. Here lies a Hampshire grenadier who caught his death drinking cold small beer. A good soldier's never forgot whether he dieth by musket or by pot. Referring to, a pot of beer being brewed, not the other pot. But we'll go ahead and read again the bottom of page 1 and part of page 2. Ominous warning, which I failed to heed. 22 and a veteran of foreign wars, I went home at last. I fancied myself a leader, for had not the men of my battery given me a special token of appreciation? My talent for leadership, I imagined, would place me at the head of vast enterprises, which I would manage with the utmost assurance. I took a night law course and obtained employment as an investigator for a surety company. The drive for success was on. I had proved to the world that I was important. My work took me about Wall Street, and little by little, I became interested in the market. Many people lost money, but some became very rich. Why not I? I studied economics and business as well as law. Potential alcoholic that I was, I nearly failed my law course. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think or write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. We had long talks when I would still her forebodings by telling her that men of genius conceive their best projects when drunk, that the majestic constructions of philosophic thought were so derived. All right, my friends, so I apologize. I said out of the 12 and 12 we were reading page 22. That is incorrect. We did that yesterday. As I was reading it out loud, I was like, wait a minute, I just read this yesterday. We're actually reading page 23, but it ended up being a good thing because it refreshed my memory on what we read. And we were talking about how, it does say right here that it is a heck of an issue to admit complete defeat here. As far as alcohol is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. It was a total liability. And then it says a little further down, no amount of human willpower could break it for alcoholics. Because it says a little bit later, it explains the obsession of the mind and the allergy. The tyrant alcohol wielded a double-edged sword over us. First, we were smitten by an insane urge that condemned us to go on drinking. That's the obsession of the mind. And then by an allergy of the body that ensured that we would ultimately destroy ourselves in the process. And that would be the physical allergy once the once the stuff hits our lips. So we are going to continue on that thought on page 23. Now, they were talking about how, one of the last lines, many desperate alcoholics tried AA but did not succeed because they could not make the admission of hopelessness. Talking about maybe high bottom drunks, meaning maybe they didn't lose everything. But yeah, let's keep on going. They got more to say about that. Page 23. It is a tremendous satisfaction to record that in the following years, this changed. Alcoholics who still had their health, their families, their jobs, and even 2 cars in the garage began to recognize their alcoholism. As this trend grew, they were joined by young people who were scarcely more than potential alcoholics. They were spared that last 10 or 15 years of literal hell that the rest of us had gone through. Since step 1 requires an admission that our lives had become unmanageable, how could such people as these take this step? It was obviously necessary to raise the bottom the rest of us had hit to the point where it could hit them. By going back in our own drinking histories, we could show that years before we realized it, we were out of control. That our drinking even then was no mere habit. That it was indeed the beginning of a fatal progression. To the doubters, we could say, perhaps you're not alcoholic after all. Why don't you try some more controlled drinking? Bearing in mind, meanwhile, that we have told you about alcoholism. This attitude brought immediate and practical results. It was then discovered that when one alcoholic had planted in the mind of another the true nature of his malady, that person could never be the same again. Following every spree, he would say to himself, maybe those AAs were right. After a few such experiences, often years before the onset of extreme difficulties, he would return to us convinced. He had hit bottom as truly as any of us. John Barleycorn himself had become our best advocate. "24 hours a day, January 10th. AA thought for the day. When we were drinking, most of us were full of pride and selfishness. We believed we could handle our own affairs, even though we were making a mess of our lives. We were very stubborn and didn't like to take advice. We resented being told what to do. To us, humility looked like weakness. But when we came into AA, we began to be humble. We found out that humility gave us the power that we needed to overcome drinking. Have I learned for the day? I will come to God in faith, and He will give me a new way of life. This new way of life will alter my whole existence, the words I speak, the influence I have. They will spring from the life within me. I see how important is the work of a person who has this new way of life. The words of the example of such a person can have a wide influence for good in the world. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may learn the principles of the good life. I pray that I may meditate upon them and work at them, because they are eternal. Daily Reflection, January 10th. United we stand. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 30. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous because I was no longer able to control my drinking. It was either my wife's complaining about my drinking, or maybe the sheriff forced me to go to AA meetings, or perhaps I knew, deep down inside, that I couldn't drink like others. But I was unwilling to admit it because the alternative terrified me. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women united against a common, fatal disease. Each one of our lives is linked to every other, much like the survivors on a lifeboat at sea. If we all work together, we can get safely to shore. All right, my friends, that concludes today's reading, and I really love in the big book. I love how Bill just gets right to the point. I mean, we're only on page 2 here, and he's already admitting that he has problems with alcohol. We're already starting to see little seeds being planted here that he has an issue. I nearly failed my law course. At one of the finals, I was too drunk to think or write. Though my drinking was not yet continuous, it disturbed my wife. And that was me. There'd be the first time I ever drank. Sorry for the details, but I threw up and I nearly blacked out. And it's on camera. It was right after prom a long time ago. And they kept serving me drinks and I wasn't really feeling anything. And then boom, it hit me. And I was crazy drunk the first time. And now, they're all teasing me. I could barely hold my head up and everything. So that was my first time, right? And I remember thinking, that alcohol stuff, that's not for me. Never again. But then, after a few weeks, or maybe that summer, I think it was, so maybe a month or so has gone by, we were up in New Jersey and my dad was sick. And I remember he was in the hospital and I was listening to music in his basement. And here I see this bottle of whiskey in the basement. And I'm thinking, and I was a little depressed at the time because Dad was sick. And I was also a little curious. I said, well, maybe I'll try just a little. And, maybe the first night or two, I was drinking normal. I would have a couple and I'd love that feeling it gave me. It would numb that depression and sadness that I was feeling about my dad. Somehow it made music better too. So I kind of got addicted to that feeling it gave me. So I say all that to say this. All throughout my 20s, there would be pockets of time where I could drink a little bit and feel fine. But there were also times where I was drinking alcoholically, where I was drinking to numb a certain pain or a certain thing, you name the excuse. But when I would put it in my body, I would just have to start drinking more and more. And it became an obsession in my mind the next day. I could not wait for the next drink. Oh, yeah, all right. Once I get all these chores done, then I could have a drink. But eventually in my 30s, actually late 20s going into 30s, it was definitely a problem. It was definitely a spiraling here for sure. But another thing real quick that I noticed was Bill's pride here. And buddy, did I have pride too. Still can have it. Every single day. But he says, actually right before this page, he talks about how he was a leader in the military, which I certainly appreciate his service. But he's been told he's a leader. He wants to prove to the world that he's important. We see a little bit of his pride here. I know for me, pride is one of the biggest struggles that I had before drinking. I was prideful with an inferiority complex while drinking, and even in sobriety. I have to watch it. I really do. I try to every single day just pray the 3rd step prayer. And one of the first things I mention in my difficulties is pride. that my higher power would take that away. But anyway, guys, I have rambled on a lot. I hope you all have a great day today. Have a great weekend. And please know, as always, I don't speak on behalf of AA, NA, Al-Anon, any other sect or denomination. I'm just a friend in this lifeboat of recovery. And it was cool to kind of read about that lifeboat in the daily reflection today. So if you are sober today, my friend, I hope you know that you're a miracle. And those who love you are very proud of you. And if you're not sober today, my friend, I hope you know that you have value, you have worth, and you are worthy of recovery. So with that, my friends, if we're given another set of 24 hours, I sincerely look forward to seeing you right back here